Yes, well, hello again. I'm back with another presentation. This is the third or fourth time I've tried this because it's a bit of a beast. I'm cutting it down every time. So good news is it's way down from the 24 minutes of the first one. It's still quite a long one because there's a lot of information here. This was the presentation that I hoped to give you at the end of last week. Some of it has been touched upon elsewhere, but there's a lot of stuff that we need to get across here. Not least about all of this information here, and starting with Ucas grades. Okay, so let's start off with Ucas grades. These are not predictions, remember that. These are the grades that we hope you're going to get, and this is a game that we play with the universities every year, and they know how to play the game and we know how to play the game, and nothing ever changes. All right, so we know what we're doing here when we say we are informed by the mocks, and we look at the mock performance +1 overall. Okay, so that's a potential uplift from your mock performance of 4 grades across the entire spectrum of results. Now, we've looked at the results. I've looked at the results from grade. They are in line with previous years, so we're holding to that formula. Okay, now that is what you're going to get. These will be confirmed by the HOD. If there's any extenuating circumstances or mitigating circumstances, maybe they can fill those in. But the HOD's decision is final. That is the grade that comes out of that department. Okay. Now, if you want to change that, we can look at maybe doing a resit, and we'll cover that on the next slide. But the HOD knows what they're doing. Okay. So when they say that we think that with the best possible will in the world and with all possible advantage, you're going to get this at the end of the year, or your best case scenario is getting this at the end of the year, then they probably know what they're talking about. So do not haggle with the HOD. Any deviation from that, you come to me, okay? So you work with the HOD, you do what you can to improve that offer with the HOD through reset if necessary, but when the HOD's decision comes through, if you're not happy with that, then that's the end of the game as far as they're concerned. That comes to me, and we can discuss whether or not we might want to improve that grade, perhaps by a little bit, but I'm going to talk a little bit about that when we get to it. Now, I did mention resets just on the last slide. One of the ways you might be able to improve the Ucas grade the HOD is prepared to give you is by doing a reset. Now, if you've got a U overall in your paper, then that reset will be mandatory. Okay, so if you've got a U, then you will be resetting a paper in that subject the second week of term. Okay, so that is mandatory. And if you don't pass that, then we're going to have to have a long and hard chat about what's the best thing for you going forward. Because our experience is people who can't improve, people who get U's in their mocks and in the resets, struggle really to return a grade in the final exam that's going to do your resume any favors at all. So it may be that we need to have a think about your overall goals, your objectives, and how we're going to achieve those. So anyone who gets a U, or anyone who got a U, in the end of year exams, you will be resitting that paper. And please, please, please pass it, because nobody wants to have those complicated conversations. Other grades, if you did not get a U, if you got whatever it was, but you think that was not your best result because whatever reason, then speak to the HOD. If the HOD allows it, then you will be able to do a reset. Those resets are going to be at the same time. That is week 2. Now, the reason they're in week 2 is because the longer we leave this, the more it just cannibalizes time that we need to crack on with the serious business of teaching the second year of the A-level course. So all of these mocks are going to be in the second week of term, whether they're mandatory or if they're elective. That means you've got to do some work over the summer. If you want to reset this paper, contact the HOD, tell them you want to reset the paper, and they will say, yeah, I imagine. And then we'll start to build a timetable around that. But you have to do some work, okay? Because when we come back, we are cracking on with the second year of the course. Lots of people work very, very hard over the year, pass those exams. We can't put a break on their wider school teaching just so some people can do resets. That's just not how it works, okay? So you have to be doing some work over the summer, whether it's a mandatory reset or an elective reset, because those exams are week 2, and that's it. Good, I think that. Much more efficient than the last time I did this. Now, when you're asking for your Ucas grades, we could, in theory, give everybody straight A's. But what would be the point of that? That would be nuts. Right now, the school has a very good reputation amongst the universities for presenting credible grades. And we owe it, not just to you, but to future generations of Stoics, to make sure that our Ucas grades are credible. And if we start promising the sun, the moon, and the stars, and people don't deliver on them, then that's just going to make those coming next, that's going to make their job significantly harder, okay? So, Don't ask for grades you're not going to get, because that's insane. That's just going to make the end of year run around when we get the results even tougher. But most of all, think about why those grades are there, okay? Your goal, your objective, your goal is to have a good time at university and to come out with a fantastic degree. Now, if you are applying to this level of institution, then all of the teaching and all of the students and all of the expectations are going to be at that level of academic ability. Similarly, if you're applying to ABB, then the lectures are going to be pitched at that level. The seminars are going to be pitched at that level. The lecturers will be expecting you to work at that sort of level, and everybody around you will be working at that sort of level. Similarly, if it's BCC, that's going to be taught to that level. What I'm saying is that if you're a BBC student and you ask us for grades, straight A's, you're probably not going to get them, first things first. But if you get within a sort of distance of it and the university says, yeah, whatever, you're going to go in and you're going to be being taught at that level of expected performance, which is going to make it challenging. So what we're saying here is that when universities present their entrance thresholds for their courses, they're not just doing it out of spite. They're not just doing it to reduce the numbers that they have to teach. What they're doing is they're saying, this is the level that we're going to be working at. And if you're not at that level, then you're going to struggle throughout. So make sure you're picking a university course that's right for you. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that at the end, because fundamentally what we want is people to be coming out with good degrees rather than mediocre degrees from good universities. Anyway, I'll come back to that. Before then, let's talk a little bit about the personal statement. Now, a lot has been said about this already, so I really don't want to talk too much about it, other than to say that it really, really matters. Okay, you can read that. It matters. You need to get this right. So, what is it? Well, it's 4,000 characters, as you've been told. That's including spaces, it's including punctuation, it's including anything really that takes up pixels on a page. It should be in prose. We don't want bullet points, we don't want lists, we don't want you drawing pretty patterns with the text. That's just barkers. But the hardest bit is that it's why you. That's the really, really tricky bit. What you're doing here is you're trying to sell yourself. This is your elevator pitch, okay? There's one seat left, and this is your attempt to secure that seat for you. And that's what the Ucas statement is, and that's why it's so incredibly hard. Now, it's about selling yourself in these three particular areas. Now, traditionally, we've taken this commitment to the subject out and split it across 2 paragraphs. You can do that if you like. And if you look at some of my older videos, that's what I do. But essentially, it's 3 things that you're trying to get across here. The first is your commitment to the subject. Now, why is this the right course for you? And why are you the person that this lecturer wants on the course? Now, I could go into that in so much more detail, but if I did that, you'd all doze off. And I think it was rather covered by the universities the other day. And I've certainly done lots of other videos about it. But this is it. This is the window into your mind. You're inviting somebody into your thinking process, and you're showing them how much you care about this particular subject. And so in that case, it's going to be, what are your interests? How have you developed that? What are the big issues that you want to talk about? And always, 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 if you've got it, work experience. If you took nothing away from the Careers in University Week, I hope you all were aware just how important any work experience is. Any work experience can be put to the useful and the good. So this really is what that first big paragraph, that big chunk, if you want to split into 2 paragraphs, that's fine, but that's really what that introduction has got to be about. Now, your wider commitment to academia and learning, this is particularly important if you're applying to university to do something that could immediately be a job. So whether it's art or business or what's the other one that keeps coming up? It's business, finance, all of this sort of stuff. You need to make sure that in your personal statement, you're making it clear that you're not applying for a job, rather you're going off to university. So many first drafts of a personal statement, particularly for business and finance, read like a wonderful letter of application to go and work at, in a big business, right? It's not that. You're going to university, you're going to study. you're going to be writing essays. You're not going to be out there meeting clients and sealing deals. You're going to be at university, going to lectures, writing essays, and doing all the other things that students come across. So if your essay reads like a pitch for a job, or you're looking for a business loan, then obviously that's not massively impressive. So what you've got to talk about here in the sort of middle section of the Ucas form is just why you want to go and study. Why is it that you're going to university rather than going straight into the world of work? And this is going to be about your wider academic journey, how much you've enjoyed school, how much maybe the other subjects you've been looking at inform your general decision. But then, what do you hope to gain from university, all of that sort of stuff. I can email you a copy of this if you think it would help. And then in your final section, this is the wider offer. This is the one everybody wants to write, but actually it's probably the one that matters least. What else are you bringing to the table? And again, you can read all of that. But bear in mind that if you're going into your third form Latin prize or whatever you did at prep school, you probably missed the point there. There's going to be a lot of stuff that you want to put in here that you simply can't include because you're out of time, because the other two sections rightly take up more time. And this is where you can help us populate your school reference, which is the next section after the do's and don'ts. Some very, very quick do's and don'ts then. Again, all of this has largely been covered. Be yourself, spag. I think you can all read that, but I just want to talk about become the pompous proud, okay? This happens again every year, and I'll pick up a personal statement and I'll read this and I'll look at this and I'll think, who the hell is this to those? Right, because it doesn't sound remotely like the person on the other side of the table. Ever since I was a baby, I wanted to be in real estate. Well, probably not. All right, and it just doesn't read particularly well. So once you've read once you've completed a draft of your personal statement, give it to somebody else to read, but critically for them to read back to you. And then you listen to them reading that back to you, or you get your computer to read it back to you, and you think, does that sound like me, or does that sound like some sort of idiot I'd rather cross the road to avoid? Now look, this is a good tip whether you're writing a personal statement or a job application. All right, get somebody to read your letter back to you. And you're thinking, good old God, is that really what I want to say? Is that really what I sound like? So don't be the pompous proud. Don't repeat information elsewhere, so no exam results because you've already got those elsewhere. Scholarships, we deal with all of that. And again, that's in the school reference, which I'll come to. Do not lapse into lists. I did this, I did that, I did the next thing. No one cares. Do not quote anyone at length, okay? Marx or Clausewitz, nobody. These guys aren't applying for university, it's you, all right? So this has to be your thoughts and your words, not theirs. Don't try to be funny. Everybody thinks they have a perfect sense of humor, just like everyone thinks they have fantastic fashion sense. Not true. Don't lie. Don't leave UXBs, unexploded bombs. Now, these are particularly true if you might go and be interviewed. So if you have read a book, Moby Dick, or if you did something, or if you did read, what's the one that everybody's quoting at the minute about, for sociology, I can't remember. But if you say you've read a book and then it turns up, you go into an interview and it's patently obvious you haven't, well, that's the end of that game. So don't leave any unexploded bombs knocking around. And critically, do not expect anybody else to do this for you. It's called a personal statement for a reason. You have to do it, you have to take ownership of it, and you have to complete it to task, to time, and to everyone's level of satisfaction. Now, this is what the upper six have said in the past. This is entirely undoctored, so start early. A lot of you have already done that, so that's great news. Get lots of advice. Now, that's important. Get lots of advice, yes, but when you want somebody to comment on the actual text, limit that number, okay? Because the more people you show it to, the more it's going to get pulled apart and the less well the whole package is going to read. So get lots of advice when you're putting your ideas together, but when you come to write it, or once you've written it, make sure you don't show it to too many people, because you'll wind up with, as the old cliche goes, a horse designed by committee, which of course is a camel. So you don't want that. Limit the number of people you're showing it to, because it'll just get pulled completely out of shape and you'll wind up with a really nasty Frankenstein statement. Happens every year, somebody does it, but don't let it be you. Cut out the cheese. Again, get somebody to read it back to you, get your computer to read it back to you, and think to yourself, is that really me? Is that how I want to come across? Follow the structure, the 3-part, 4-part structure. Hold to that. It's going to help make life easy for you. And remember what you're trying to do here. You're making a pitch for that last seat on the for that last seat. That's yours. Why is it going to you and not to anybody else? So, if you haven't already, make a start, and most of you have, which is great. Portfolio building, you can do that on Unifrog. That's very helpful. Some little tips, if you're struggling with the first paragraph, move to the second paragraph. Try conversation, speak to somebody, work through these ideas, and again, get your computer to read it back to you. Now then, I mentioned the school reference. We're really good at this, okay? False modesty being half of pride, there's no point. We are really, really good at our school references. Look at the number of offers we get back. The way you can help us make it better is, as I said, to include anything that you haven't been able to put into your particular personal statement. So what did you leave out that we might want to put in? So this will be prizes won, scholarships, that sort of thing. Now, this is particularly helpful with our first and last paragraph. This is the top and tailing of the Ucas statement, of the school reference. And it's also a good way of us for picking up on things that you might want us to get across. You arrived at Stowe from this, that, or the other school with an outstanding or an average or a terrible academic record. Now, that might not necessarily sound like a good start, but if you said you came to Stowe, and let's face it, you weren't perhaps a great academic, you had a pretty mediocre record elsewhere, but then, obviously, all of this development and all of this growth has been happening. That's the sort of thing that universities like to read about. No one is the finished article. Everyone at the minute is work in progress. And so you're allowed to say, look, I was not very good and now I'm this much better. And that's the sort of thing that we can get across in the personal statement. So that's, how did you start and how would you like to remember? Sid leaves us as a prefect with a glowing reputation and fantastically admired amongst house, blah, 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 blah. All of that sort of stuff. Just in case there's anything going on that your tutor might have missed. Sit down, talk with your tutor. What do you want them to say? Our reference is about why anyone should believe all of the stuff you've come up with in your personal statement, but you can help us make that record that much more convincing. So do talk to your tutor about it, and it will make life easier for everybody. Okay, now this was the bit that I was talking about earlier about Ucas grades. Everybody feels that they should be making an application to this level of university, whether it's Oxford, Cambridge, Russell Group, whatever. But that doesn't mean that it's the right university for you, okay? The right university for you is one that you're going to finish after 3 years with a good degree, with at least a 2-1. Now, if you go to a highly academic university and you're highly academic, then fantastic. You're going to be happy as Larry, all right? But if you feel that you should try to get into a university that is going to work you harder than you can reasonably work for 3 years, then that's not really going to help, particularly if you come out of that university with a 2-2. So while the university matters to an extent, the grade of your final degree matters much, much more. Remember, universities are going to be pitching their offer at various levels. And you have to be honest with yourself about what level is going to best suit you. Now, I do a deep dive into Nottingham. Why did I pick Nottingham? Well, I mean, it's got 2 universities and test ground. What else could you ask for? So you've got the University of Nottingham down there, you've got Trent up there, and then you've got Trent Bridge somewhere down there. Now, these are 2 different universities. One is Russell Group, one is not Russell Group. One is a former polytechnic, and as a result of which, there's a lot of preconceived notions about which one is best. Now, I've got 1,000,001 slides here, but this presentation has already been going on for about 18 minutes. So I'm not going to go through all of them too much, but I mean, what you should be able to see here is that, in the main, there's not a massive difference in these 2 universities. Yeah, there's a significant difference here, which is entry tariff, which is 136 against 161. But otherwise, in terms of continuation, career after 6 months, there's not a huge difference in them. And this is Nottingham Trent. This is the student satisfaction. So you've got Nottingham Trent is going up. By the way, all of this data you can find on Discover Uni, which Dr. West introduced you to earlier. A lot of it's on Unifrog, Guardian Guide. You can get all of this information for you. But what we're trying to get across here is that all of these things are largely the same. There's a difference in research quality because one is a Ross Group University, which is much more organized around research and postgrads and all that sort of stuff. And you can see that particularly, I think, on the next slide, research intensity, because Nottingham Trent is not really a research university. It doesn't have a lot of postgrads there. It's got lots of undergrad, and that's fine. But look at this, graduate prospectus. There's no significant difference there. And that's what I wanted to get across in particular. We come over here, we look again at the difference in entry standards. These are the different offers that are being made. There's a significant gap there. That gap is almost closed when we get to the other side. So you might get a lower offer from Nottingham Trent, but you're just as likely to get a job at the other end, particularly if you're coming out with a 2-1. So don't be led by the name of the university. Think about how that university teaches. Think about your strengths and your weaknesses and where you are on that particular sort of academic ladder. You know, if you're BBB, then find a university that's good for BBBs. Don't force yourself into an AAA thing because you think that's going to be better. You're probably going to struggle. Which brings me to, one of the, whatever. This is a really, really tough slide to talk about. I mean, yes, it's an old slide, but this is the last sort of reasonably comprehensive data that we've got to go off. End of the first year, a lot of people change degrees. That's not optimal, okay? You don't want to be starting again at the end of your first year, but more particularly this number here. 10% of people who start university don't finish it. Now, there are all sorts of reasons why that happens, and remember, this is pre-COVID, but one of the reasons why so many people don't finish university is because they make bad decisions going in. They put themselves in the wrong university, they pick the wrong course. Now, I have to say that the figure for Stoics is significantly below that. It's way, way, way below that. I'd say that maybe 1-2 students each year don't finish university. Now, those are 2 students, 2 more than I like, to be brutally honest, because that means that somewhere along the line, maybe they've been badly advised, or maybe they didn't listen to the advice that we were giving them. Either way, we want everybody to finish with a degree. Our record is much better than that. But, every now and again, something goes wrong. We don't want that to be you. We want you to start university. We want you to be very, very happy in your course, happy with the level of teaching that you're getting, confident that you're going to get a 2-1 at the other end, and then you can go out and get a fantastic job. So, you've got, I've gone the wrong way. Sorry, there we go. So, you've got to get this right. You've got to get it right because, you've got 3 years of that course. And there are consequences at the end if you haven't got it right. But most of you are going to get it right. I have absolutely every confidence in that. And so what we can say is, over the summer, enjoy the summer. Find that work experience. Whatever you can do, it can always be put to a useful end in your personal statement, and do some work. Whether it's for resits or whether it's to get ahead on next year, do that work. But most of all, it's been a hell of a year. If you can get away, get away. Enjoy the summer. And that's it from me. I think we'll probably shut up there. Any questions, do let me know. You know where I am. I'm going to be picking up my emails from time to time. Have a great summer. Take care and see you on the other side. Bye.